Yes, sir.
Okay, very good.
Yes.
Yes.
Walking and working surface. Walking and working surface, every day at our workplace, we are in contact with many of the walking and working surfaces, right? These walking and working surfaces are starting from our own workplace and in our surrounding areas, which can cause us not only the minor injuries, but they can also cause us the major injuries or leading up to death. So that's why OSHA has included this topic, that we need to understand what are the major precautions which we need to carry out while we are having walking and working surface. Now we can see 29 CFR 1910. So this 29 CFR is also the code for general industry, and this 22 is basically the section 22 of this code. 1910 is general industry code, and 22 is the section which define the housekeeping. As required by OSHA, we need to maintain the highest level of housekeeping within our companies. When we say housekeeping, it doesn't mean the cleaning only. Housekeeping is a very broad term. Have you ever listened the word 5S? Any of you? The word 5S, this terminology.
I didn't understand. What is
5S. 5 number, thumbs up.
5S?
S. Yes. So this 5S, now just write your assignment for tomorrow. You need to find out 5S on Google. This is basically a Japanese tool which is focusing on housekeeping requirements. When we say housekeeping, it means that we need to sustain. When we say housekeeping, which means that we need to standardize. When we say housekeeping, we need to be shine. So there are in total 5S. And now in I have seen in some companies, they have added this safety S as 6S. So they say that we are following 6S. Most of the time, when I'm doing the consultancy for my clients, and they ask us that we need to develop the system for ISO 45000 in our company, I used to advise them that before going to ISO 45000, it's better to go for the 5S activity. This 5S activity will give you a drastic change with a very limited period of time. And also it will include the participation from all over the areas. While if you will be starting working on ISO 45000, it might be possible that when the people they heard the name of ISO, they think that it is the health and safety department's baby. So why should we involve? Why should we follow their instructions? We have overload, too much overload. Why we need to do this additional task? So this 5S is basically going to organize their areas. This 5S does not require too much documentation. You need to have only a small checklist available, like you will find on the Google if you write 5S checklist, 5S audit checklist. So this 5S activity, you can have the awareness session with your people or with your management staff, and then you can start this 5S activity within your company. So in your workshops, in your store, in your warehouses where the material is unorganized, the tool is unidentified, the housekeeping, the cleaning is not properly maintained, this housekeeping activity or this 5S activity is going to give them a drastic change in a very limited period of time. We have seen in most of the time workshops, you will find the motors, the pumps, which are, you will be looking these pumps for last five years, for last 10 years. They are available in the workshop, useless. So why These are keeping in the workshop. Sometimes you will find in your warehouse, in your stores, some expired materials, some extra expired chemicals. So these are occupying a large area within your store. And the material which is good, the material which needs to be protected, which needs to be saved, and this material we are not going to focus. So there is a chance that the new material is going to be deteriorated. So 5S activity is a very good activity to start safety system. So once the people will become used to a 5S, for example, in 1 quarter or in 6 months, then you can start the safety, and you will feel that the safety implementation will be very easy, because when those people who are in safety department, they know that many times the fire accidents, 18% of the fire accidents are happening due to bad housekeeping. So all the time they have to ask the people to improve their housekeeping of area, housekeeping of area, housekeeping of area. So when the people, they will become used to of good housekeeping, they will become used to of applying 5S activities, then your 20% load will be reduced in terms of the practical on-site implementation. However, ISO 45000 or the health and safety management system documentation still you need to do, but at least due to a good housekeeping, the chances of accidents are going to be reduced. The chances of injuries and ill health and fire accidents are going to be reduced, right? So for tomorrow, the first homework is to, some of you guys will be focusing on what is 5S, and two, or for example, I can assign Babar and Moise. You guys just search for 5S audit checklist. There are hundreds of checklists available on internet regarding to 5S. So just share 2-3 samples with us. So all of the guys, they can see that how this checklist is, and they can implement, all of you can implement. Even if you already start the safety system in your company, still you can implement 5S activities within your company, then you will see the change, right? Then we have aisles and passageway. Any question regarding 5S or housekeeping? Okay. Then we have our next section about grounding floor and wall opening. These grounding floor and wall opening, when we are dealing with our workplace or when we are dealing with our walking and working surface, they become important, because we need to know what is floor opening, what is floor hole, what is wall opening, and what is wall hole, in order to protect ourselves and in order to protect our people. These are technical terminologies. See, you can still be using the word floor hole for small and large. You can still be using opening for small and large, no problem. But when we are taking the course, we want to be more professional. We want to use the good terminologies which are being used in the field. Then we need to focus on these words which can help us in writing our reports in more technical wording rather than to use the generic words. So how OSHA defines the floor hole? Floor hole is opening measuring less than 12 inches, which you can see in the picture as well. The From this floor hole, the person's is not going to be fall. The person is not going to be fall with the floor hole. A person can stuck into it, and they can have trip accident due to the floor hole, because it is less than 12 inches. At least I cannot fall from 12 inches, right? If there is a floor hole of 12 inches on any of the platform or on any of the road, I cannot fall because of my health. But maybe some of you are smart, they can fall. So we can see in this picture, the floor hole is like very small hole where your foot can stuck your, and you can have the tripping hazard or tripping hazard rather than falling hazard. Similarly, we have floor opening. What is floor opening? Floor opening is basically if it is more than 12 inches from where a person can fall from the floor or from the height, or the example for floor opening is uh, we have the drain channels, we have the drain holes available, we have the manhole available. Have you seen the opening of manholes? These are more than 12 inches. That's why sometimes the people who are going to enter in the confined space, they have to remove this floor opening uh, cover, and then they will enter in the confined space. So floor opening is very important to cover wherever possible. If it is not possible to cover floor opening, then we need to make sure that it should be surrounded by the guarding. And what is the guarding or the guardrail, we will discuss in next slide. So platform is our working surface where we are working. For example, if you are working on a 10th floor, or your office or your workplace is in the 10th floor, so this doesn't mean that you are working at height. Your ground where you are standing, where you are walking, it will still be considered as your ground, right? And when we have above this ground, for example, you are working on a scaffold, you are working on stool, you are working on table. So these are basically our platforms. So when we say platform, it should be above from the height, and it doesn't matter if the our we are working on the first floor or second floor or 100th floor, it will be above from our ground. Okay. Then we have wall hole. The wall hole is like an opening less than 30 inches, but more than 1 inch, which means that a hole in the wall. Most of the time, we have seen that from 30 inch, a person cannot fall from the wall hole. Similarly, like floor hole, right? Your body cannot fall from 30 inches. It is like 1.5 foot, uh, more than two and a half foot. So, but wall opening is like more than 30 inches in height and 18 inches wide. So from wall opening, a person can fall easily, right? From wall hole, a person cannot fall easily, but if he is very thin, very smart, he can fall from wall hole. Similarly, a person cannot fall from wall opening. So the summary is wall hole is a floor hole is from 1 to 12 inches, and we can get stuck. We can have trip accident due to the floor hole. And if we have this hole more than 12 inches, we call it floor opening, like our main drain channels or main drain holes. These are all our floor hole, and from where a person can fall. Then we have wall hole. This is from higher, more than 1 inch, and less than 30 inch. From most of the time, uh, from wall, the person is not necessary to fall. But from wall opening, which is more than 30 inches, a person can fall easily. So whenever we are working near the wall opening, we need to focus on the railing. So what are the requirements for railing? We are going to see in the next slide. Any question? Yes, guys, any question? Okay. Manhole means drain channels. Like, have you seen the cover of drain channels? This is manhole. Sometimes it is also a electrical manhole. Sometimes it is a drain, sometimes electrical, sometimes the cable trays are there inside, sometimes it's a confined space hole. So these are all manhole classification of manhole. Now we have floor protection for floor, right? Protection for floor openings. What we need to discuss in this slide, what is railing? What is railing or standard railing? Basically, standard railing consists of three parts. the first part is the top rail, and then we have mid rail, and then we have toe board. The top
Mr.
rail
Anas,
is basically from the ground, it is 42 inches. But when we say 42 inches, which means that it is more than our wall hole, so wall opening. So there is a chance that from the ground up to 42 inches, a person can fall with the wall opening. So that's why we need to include another railing in between. We call it mid rail. This mid rail is like from ground, it is like 21 inches from the ground. So here you can see in the picture, from the ground it is like 42 inches, and then we have mid rail, which is 21 inches, right? The overall railing, this is the side view of the railing. This is our ground, right? There, this is the total height of railing. And if you see here, this is our mid rail. Mid rail is between 42 inches from the ground. So this is 21 inch. Because if it will be 30 inches, then it will become wall opening, and it might be possible a person can fall from here. So that's why it is now 21 inches, which means that there is a very least possibility that a person can fall. And when we have mid rail and top rail, then there is another thing, we call it toe board. Toe board is like 4 inch from the ground. Toe board is like 4 inch from the ground. This toe board is basically, the purpose for toe board is not to protect the human or the person who is working on height. The purpose of toe board is basically to save the falling of any loose items, loose material, for example, a screwdriver, for example, a spanner, for example, heavy screw, because it might be possible that when you are working at height, there are some people who are also working on the ground. And now you can imagine that if a nut of 1 inch size or 2 inch size is going to be fall from a platform or which is on 50 feet above the ground, so how it is going to have impact on the person who is working on the ground? So it will not be less than a bullet. So that's why we need to install a toe board. So while we are working on the platform, we need to have a standard rail or top rail, we need to have a mid rail, and we need to have a toe board on our working surface. So to protect ourselves and to protect the other people. Whenever we have the wall opening or floor opening, we need to cover it. Otherwise, there should be a person in charge available who will always have eyes on this opening and on the people who are working there. So in case if there is any danger of falling, he is going to inform. Because sometimes it might be possible that you need to work on confined space, or you need to work on the cable trays, and this cable tray entry is like manhole, as Mr. Melvin has defined in the chat. So it might be possible that they are working near this cable tray and they have to go and come back time to time. So in this case, we need to have one person available. We call it sometime we there are different names. Sometimes you call it uh, fire watch, but it's mostly when we are doing the hot work activities, we use a fire watch. Otherwise, we call it there is a fire watch and there is another name, whole watch. So this whole watch guy is available all the time. His duty is not to work, he is not the part of that team who is performing the task. Rather, his duty is to remain available whenever you are working near the holes. Clear? Any question?
Mr. Anas, sorry, so you can use the picture number 1 or the picture number 2,
Yes, guys, any question?
Mr. Anas?
I'm not able to hear you guys.
Mr. Anas?
I don't know why.
Hello?
stairways are required to have on different conditions. Uh, Guys, I will make you mute again. Disturbing me. So stairways, if stairways are like less than 44 inches in width, then we need to have at least one handrail, right? Then we need to have at least one handrail. For example, if it is not a very wide stairways and not too many people are using it, then in this case we need to have at least one handrail on, which is preferably on right side, because in case of emergency the people will come down and they need to have something to handle, otherwise they can collapse with each other and many of the accident or the possibility of falling are possible. If we have stairways which are more than 44 inches and it is from one side it is covered and the other side is open, in this case we need to have the handrail which is the open side. And similarly, if we have the stairways which are open from both sides, which are more than 44 inches and open from both sides, then in this case we need to cover the both sides of the stairways. And if the stairways are very wide, for example up to 88 inches, then in this case, for example in the malls or on public places, we have very wide stairways. So in this case we need to have three handrails available, two on the corners and one in the middle. Why we need to have three stairways handrails available? Three handrails, the purpose are the same thing, that in case of emergency, when many people will be going up or when most of the time we consider as coming down, so those people who are on the left side, those people who are on the right side, they can handle with the handrails which are on the left and right side. But what about the people who are on the middle? Because when we are designing the stairways for which is very wide, which means that definitely there will be many people who will be working on the above floors. So in case of emergency, most of the people, they will come at once. So in this case it will be very difficult for the people who are on the middle of the stairways to control themselves, and it might be possible that they can have a collision with each other and they can fall. So that's why we need to have on 88 inches. Yeah, exactly. That's why on 88 inches or more, we need to have, whenever we have more than 44 inches up to 88, we need to have three stairways. And when we talk about three stairways, again, we need to have the same thing like top rail and mid rail. So in this case, nobody can, there is no chance for the falling. Then we have fixed industrial stairs. Fixed industrial stairs are very common in the industries, right? Sometimes you will find them, they are fixed for some limited uh, platform, or they are limited through some to gain access for some tanks, or to, so the operator can go up and they, whenever they want to make any maintenance activities, any cleaning activities, or to check the temperature or pressure, or to check the amount of substance which is available on the tank, they can go and they can see. And sometimes there are also in our stores, we can see that there are some these kind of fixed industrial stairs are available. For example, when we make in the same floor, we make one platform, so the some of the material can also be placed on the platform. So in this case, we are going to install fixed industrial stairs. So fixed industrial stairs are being discussed in 1910 section 24. It says that normally the fixed industrial stair shall be carry the 5 times of the total weight which is going to be on life. For example, if 2 people are using this fixed industrial stairs, or 3 people are using fixed industrial, or they normally if there is only one person who is using this, so they shall bear at least the 5 times of its load. Or if 5 times are not possible and you are not sure, maybe 2 people are using, maybe 3 people are using, or in future maybe more people are using. So the fixed industry stairs shall minimum be can bear up to 1000 pounds, which means that more than approximate 500 kg should bear the load at once. When we say 500 kg, which mean on average you can say 5 to 6 persons can use this fixed stairs at the same time. The stairways shall be minimum width of 22 inches. Whenever we are going to install stairways, we need to make sure that they should be minimum 22 inches and the angle should be between 30 and 50. The ideal is 45-degree, but when we say this ideal 45, it is going to take a lot of space. So that's why in this case, if it is up to 30-degree or it is more on the vertical side, so it's okay, it is still acceptable. And the vertical clearance above any stair tread or to an overhead obstruction shall be 7 feet. When we say 7 feet, which means if we are on the first step or we are on the middle step or we are on the last step, must be 7 feet clearance from the step, because normal height are like 6 feet, 5.8, 6.5. So in case if you are using this fixed industrial stair in case of emergency, your head should not touch the wall or on or wall or the what you call it, any of the surface which is available there. So these are some of the requirements for fixed industrial stairs. Now we have, now you can see that the OSHA is again, remember yesterday we discussed that OSHA needs to apply at the time of designing. So if we are not be able to apply it at the time of designing, then it will be very difficult for us once the design is structured that to change it after the construction. Then we have portable ladders. There are various type of portable ladders. For example, step ladder. For example, we have step ladders, we have single ladder, we have extension ladders. So step ladders are self-supporting portable ladder, non-adjustable in length and having flat steps and hinge bend. Most of the time, this step ladder which you can see also in the picture, they are self-supporting, no need for supporting with the wall or with any other surface. And when you are using them, you need to make it full stretch. So the hinge should be properly locked with each other, and then you can use the step ladder. Step ladder, the top of the step ladder shall not be used as a platform, or we cannot stand on the top of the ladder because it is very dangerous. Then it might be possible that we don't find any support to handle it, and there is a chance for falling hazard. Single ladder, it's very commonly used single ladder in our homes and also in our companies. We have single ladder for small purposes, for some small tasks we use single ladder. This single ladder is, if you can half this step ladder, it will become single ladder, right? So this single ladder, we are going to make it stable with the wall, and then we are going to stand on it, and then we are going to perform our task. But this is also a very dangerous single ladder. Especially single ladder become more dangerous if two or more than two ladders are combined together to make it more longer. If you see in Kingdom and many of the our AC technicians who are near to our home, when they are taking out the air conditioner from second floor or from third floor, they don't have any other devices or crane or any other means like cherry picker. So they make the single ladder join with another ladder by means of rope or any wire, and then they are going to use it, which is very dangerous for their life as well as it is a very serious violation of OSHA regulation. Then we have extension ladder. This extension ladder is a non-self-supporting portable ladder, which means that if you want to make it extend, this is extendable up to the same height. For example, one ladder is like 6 feet or 8 feet, and if it is extendable ladder, so you can extend it up to 16 feet, no problem. So after that, once you are going to use it, after that you can put them again, you can combine them and then you can keep it safe. So we need to know about the safety precautions regarding to the portable ladders, and we need to know about the safety precautions with regards to scaffolding. So what I will do now, I will divide you guys into two groups, so then you can use it, then you can discuss and just take out minimum 5 important points and then discuss in your own words about the precautions with regards to portable ladders and the scaffold, right? So now I'll make the breakout rooms, and this activity should be very fast, like maximum 8 minutes. We need to make it because the points are already available in your books. So you need to just read and just highlight. If you want to write, you can write. Otherwise, no problem. You can use it verbally. But it's better to write so everyone can see the important points, right? Yes, guys, join your group. Yes, guys. Have you joined the group?
Yes, sir.
We have Adnan here in this group. Adnan, no Adnan. So you will be discussing about the ladders, right?
Yeah.
Other group will be discussing about scaffolding because Adnan is a scaffold supervisor, so he can help us in much better way for about scaffolding. Okay. So your group task is for ladders, safety precautions for the ladders, right? Hurry up.
Okay.
Hello.
Yes.
Hi guys.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yes, guys.
Okay. You share the slide.
Yeah, I will open the book. Then someone will write it in the
Yes,
word.
guys. You have Adnan with you, Adnan.
Yes.
Adnan,
Yes, sir.
since
Yes, sir.
Adnan is the expert for scaffolding, so your topic is scaffolding, okay?
Okay, Mr.
Okay.
Adnan.
Okay.
So Adnan can
It's
help
all
you in
yours,
this.
Mr. Adnan.
Adnan, it is not necessary that we will have the requirements all from the book, but I would appreciate if you can share some practical requirements which you
No, no. I share already. I share, but I not have writing problem. I not have a laptop. I'm writing everything. Problem.
no problem. You can share with Melvin or Rahbar. They can write and they can.
Yeah. I'm talking everything.
Okay,
No
fast.
problem.
5 minutes.
Okay.
Then who will do the writings? Because sharing my screen, so I cannot use Word file or Excel file right now. Hello.
Yes, Melvin.
So we are on scaffolding. Okay, so here's the scaffolding. So we'll just select from this safety requirements. Then maybe Mr. Adnan could just discuss it. So which one will be our focus here?
No. Our scaffolding is no need. You go to here on this example. I know everything and verbally. You go and writing only.
Okay, so I'll just open a Word file in this case.
You open. I'm talk to you and writing.
Yeah, okay, so what should be our number one? Could you see my screen?
Yes. See.
Please, what should be our topic number one here?
Topic number 1 is scaffolding. So, what do you want to read here?
It's about the as per safety requirements.
Yes, safety requirement. Safety requirement. You start go to 1.8 meter above to high ground level.
Pardon, could you put it in chat?
1.8 meter.
Scaffolding, one part,
1.8 meter.
1 point is 8 meter.
1.8 meter. You need a safety harness. And needed platform में drill tapril.
Pardon? Do you know how to take it in chat? So I could just read it.
Drill tapril. You don't listen me.
Middle and
Tapril.
Top rail.
yes,
Top rail. And to boat. And ladder.
and
Ladder. And ladder. 75 degree.
so and then
You're writing ladder. Yes, 75 ladder.
yes, then next.
Next is sole board. On the starting on scaffold on platform scaffold needed sole board.
What is the spelling?
Sole.
Scaffolding.
SOILD. Sold.
Soil board.
Sole board.
So scaffolding needs soil board. Is it correct?
Yeah. Sole board.
So this is topic B,
Yes.
Then topic C. Then anyway, I'll just summarize it. Then you could just discuss it during the discussion. Then next one. Other requirements in scaffolding.
And then this is major and needed to board and sole board mid drill, and this what more needed leg. No need more anything. You go up 1.8 meter. Because this is this major requirement.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, you will just discuss it afterwards. Okay. How about the other requirements, installations, or what else is here? Guardrails, yeah, this one above, 10 feet above shall not work. So of course, maybe you could just discuss this one during sunstorms or high winds, right?
Yes.
You cannot work in, so we'll just add this one.
Yes.
The employee shall not work on scaffolding during storm. So here in Saudi Arabia, so sunstorm, right?
Yes.
So we have sunstorm, yeah, and high winds when covered with ice. Okay.
Yes.
So we'll just remove this one. So covered with ice because anyway, we have already snow is in Saudi Arabia. So let's just not remove this one.
Yes.
Okay. What else? I think we need 5, at least 5. Scaffolding with soil board. So what else? Guardrails already mentioned. Overhead protection, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So then last one.
The last one mentioned this hole, floor hole, or this one the platform hole.
Hole.
Less than 12 inch.
Floor hole.
A platform hole.
What's the spelling?
Platform. FAL.
F.
PLAT. FORM.
Pardon. F.
PLAT. Platform का PLAT.
FAL. Could you
PA.
just where's the chat? Could you just send me a message, guys?
No. PA.
Okay.
P-
So PA
PL.
L
PL.
PLAT. FORM.
Slowly. Is it correct,
P-
Pala?
No.
PL.
PL.
L
A.
A
T.
Yes.
Platform, not platform.
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 Sorry. Okay. Then
मारा तुम उसको इंग्लिश को पश्तो बना देगा मुझे लगता है.
No, the platform hole less than 12 inch.
should be less than or
Yes.
should
Fast.
be
I'm going to
Yeah.
finish in 1 minute. Fast.
less than, should be less than 12 inches.
Yes, 12 inch.
So yes, guys, done.
3 foot minimum.
Yeah, 3 feet of ladder for extra
Yeah,
extra wall. You see, extra ceiling or the edge. Yeah.
3 foot minimum.
Yes, guys,
Up
done.
to the top some-
Sorry.
Done. Or still working?
Yes. We have covered some points here.
Okay. Last 2 minutes. Fast.
Steps. The
Okay,
steps
so guys,
distance.
you see this angle? This angle 60
Oh.
plus there is 50, 75, and
75.
I think this preferred range and here critical range. So I don't know when I have seen this 75.5. Okay, what else? This is scaffolding, not ASA. Scaffolding. What's this? Distance to top. You see the 3 feet. Oh, I'm genius, I think.
Yes.
Well, today I have just seen a video on YouTube. That's it. Okay. Distance to top, X, 3 feet.
We can add the point. Ladder shall be placed with this secure footing all the time while we are going to use the ladders. And ideally, ladder should be inspected on monthly basis if they are not frequently being used, and not only monthly basis, but whenever you are going to use, you need to put the you need to make the inspection, the pre-use inspection we need to carry it out. The monthly inspection of the ladder when we are going to do, and we found there is no damage and the ladder is in good condition, we can put a green tag on it with like fit for use. Or if we point out that this ladder is not good for use, we can make it hold, and if maintenance is required, we can make it hold, and otherwise we can make it red tag if that do not use this ladder. So that's why the ladder are very critical operations, and there are always too much chances of accidents are there. Very good. So about scaffolding, second group. Scaffolding.
For the safety requirements for the scaffolding, Mr. Adnan Khan will discuss our points.
I think Melvin, it's better that you should share your screen and you can read whenever is needed. Adnan can participate with you.
Yeah.
Yes, you share your slide.
Yeah, okay. So once again, good evening to everyone. So for scaffolding safety requirements, so at this sessions or workshop, Mr. Adnan was our advisor since he is working in scaffolding. So one point is the 8
No.
meters.
You write here 8 meter, 1.8 meter.
So he has
So
written
anyway,
1.8.
So anyway, Mr. Adnan will discuss, will help me to discuss it with you. So anyway, in working in scaffolding, of course, safety harness is required, as well as the mid rail and top rail, and the ladder should be 75 degrees. So if Mr. Adnan could add something else with this statement, so Mr. Adnan, please.
Okay, this is okay. Continue. Whenever Adnan is required to add something, he will speak. Don't worry.
Okay, so
No, only
1.8.
1.8 meters.
1.8.
It should be decimal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So it
1.8.
should be 1.8 meters. Okay. So safety harness required with rail and top rail, as well as the ladder should be 75 degree. Okay. So second one is scaffolding needs sole board. Okay. To stand it firm. So we need the sole board. Then of course, working in height, scaffolding works is considered as working in height. So employees should not be work in the scaffolding during storms or high winds or strong winds. Another one, in working in scaffolding, we should use overhead protections. And another point is that platform hole should be less than 12 inches, as well as ladder and platform entry point should be 27 inches.
Very good. Anything else, Adnan, if you want to add, or any other guys?
No, I'm add on this is one another topic because this ladder fixed to platform. This upside almost 1 meter needed 1 meter.
Okay.
This
So
is
is it? What do you think? It is okay to use a ladder on the scaffolding?
yes, okay.
Can we
Oh,
use a
no.
ladder on a scaffolding? Because OSHA does not say.
Prohibited.
OSHA says that it is a violation to use ladder on a scaffolding, because if you are already using the scaffold, then better to use the scaffold. Why to use the ladder?
Not but scaffolding is needed. This is a standard ladder, aluminum standard ladder uses.
Okay.
And,
Okay.
platform fixed with a clump, single clump or double clump fixed.
Okay. Good.
After you use ladder.
Okay. And one more
Please,
thing
guys,
that
B.
the scaffold.
What is sole board? What is sole board? And entry point?
So sole board is for the this pipe not going on earth for stability.
The same thing which is the sole of your ladder.
Yes, sole of ladder. Yes.
Okay.
Like a foundation.
Like the feet, huh?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. This one sole board.
Okay.
Small
Good. The support. Okay.
Yes, for support.
Very good. Okay, another thing that when the scaffold is can carry up to. Okay, guys, you can stop sharing the slide. I will share my slides. When we have the scaffold, it is necessary the scaffold which is designed to bear 25 pascals per square feet. 25 pascals per square feet. We call it light duty scaffold, right? When it is 25 pascals per square feet. When we say 25 pascals per square feet, means pascal is a unit of force and square feet. If 25 pascal can be bear by 1 square feet, we call this scaffold as a light duty scaffold. And similarly, if 50 pascals per square feet can be bear by the scaffold, we call it medium duty scaffold. And if it is 75 or above pascals per square feet can be bear by the scaffold, we call it heavy duty scaffold. So this is a general classification, and the heavy duty, light duty, or medium duty depends on the design of our scaffold, right? When we are dealing with the construction OSHA 30 hours for construction course, there is a full chapter on scaffold, and we are going to discuss in detail about scaffold. Okay, let's have a revision. Select the priority. So what is the priority for the risk hazard abatement methods? Administrative control, PPE, engineering control. Or option number B, engineering control, PPE, administrative control. Number C, PPE, engineering control, administrative control. And D is none of above. Which one is true? Correct. Yes, guys.
It's none of the above. Because
above.
PPE is never in the last. So it's none of the above.
Yeah, the right order is PPE.
C.
Okay, good. So our next topic is about, there are basically 3 topics which are covered in one module. This is about exit routes, fire, and FPP. FPP stands for Fire Prevention Plan. We are going to discuss. This is one of the lengthiest module. After this module, all the modules are very short, and we can, speed up our process of learning. So exit route, we will start with exit route and then we'll move to fire and then FPP. What is exit route? Exit route is a continuous unobstructed path of exit travel from any point within a workplace to a place of safety. It is the route which is normally, in simple words or in general words, we can say that this is the route which is leading to our emergency exit. This route or this emergency exit, or always remember when we say emergency exit in normal our discussions, OSHA does not use the word of emergency exit. OSHA use the word exit. So whenever you will find the word exit in this module, which means that we are talking about emergency exit, right? If you have more than 2 exits in one room, you can declare one of them as an emergency exit, no problem. So an exit route is a continuous path which is unobstructed. There are certain requirements for exit route. It consists of mainly 3 parts, which is one of the part is the exit access, or we can say walkway, or we can say safe way, from where we are going to directly to the emergency exit. Have you seen in the companies on the floor, especially on the operations floor or on the warehouses, we have the exit access, or we have the walkways available, which is like green or with yellow lining, which shows that you have to walk on this route or in this path, because the other part might be used by the forklift or any other means of mechanical equipment or machinery. And if you are using this path, you will be leading towards the emergency exit or the exit. So you are safe in case of emergency exit if you will be following your exit axis, which means that you are now safe to go out. Then we have exit itself. When we say exit itself, which means the door itself, the door which is leading to the safe area, the door which is basically, it is the point or it is the area which is going to make partition between a safe and unsafe condition. Because in case of emergency, when you are going out from the emergency exit, it means that you are basically going, you want to go in a safe area. This safe area is outside the emergency exit. That's why we need to install the emergency exit in such condition or on such places which leads to a safe area or a safe path. So we will also be discussing about the requirement of exit access and what are the requirements of exit doors or exit itself, and what are the requirements of exit discharge. Exit discharge is the area which is basically outside the emergency exit, where we consider ourselves that now I'm safe. Because when we were inside, maybe there was some gas leakage, there was some fire, so we skip or we try to escape from our emergency exit. And once we are out of emergency exit, so now we are at exit discharge. So exit discharge, it could be a walkway, it could be an open area. In hotels, it is very difficult to make exit discharge inside, because hotels exit is the size of hotels are not so big as far as area is required, but they are more taller. So as required by Difa al-Madni, as required by regulation in Saudi Arabia, it is now one of the mandatory requirement that your emergency stairs shall be outside of the hotel. Before, it was the requirement, it was not necessary that it should be from outside, but 2 years ago there was a fire incident in a hotel in UAE, after where many people got stuck in the emergency exit. So after that in UAE and also here, the regulation has changed, and they told that your emergency stairs from the top or from any of the floor will always be outside of the hotel. So if you go to Makkah or Medina, you will find many hotels which are being sealed, which are being locked. So due to the fact that they were not be able to change the design, and the hotel was not in design in such a way that they can install the stairs. So this is one of the reason, although there are many other reasons when the hotels are being stopped or sealed by any of, due to any reason by the government. But this is one of the reason, that since the exits are not the outside from the hotel, so they are getting the warnings, they are getting the penalties. If you see nowadays the hotels, even if it is very good design, it has very beautiful building, but still they have to follow this requirement, they have to follow the rule, and they have to make the emergency stairs outside of the building. Yes. So exit discharge is the area which is outside, which is safe, right? Now the requirements for exit route. Exit route is there must be at least 2 exit routes available to permit prompt evacuation during an emergency. When we say exit route, it is not necessary that 2 emergency exit. It means that we are talking about 2 exit. One of them we can declare as emergency exit, and one of them we can declare as normal exit. So in case if the fire is on one side of exit, or emergency is one side of exit, so we can go from the other side. Or if the fire is not in our area, it is on another area, so we can use any of the exit route to go out of this emergency situation. So emergency exit should be located as far as away. What does it mean? It might be possible that to meet the requirement of a standard, you are going to have 2 doors at one place on the same side of wall, right? So on one side of wall there are 2 doors adjacent to each other, and on the opposite wall and the other walls there is no exit. So this will not be a acceptable practice, that we need to install the exit adjacent to each other. They must be far away from each other, because if there is a fire or emergency on one side of the door, so the people can use the other door and they can evacuate from the building. Single exit is acceptable depending on the occupancy, size of the building, and number of employees, because it might be possible that you have the hall available, where in this hall there are less than 50 persons who are working, and there is having, I mean, large enough area where they can sit and they can walk through, and in case of emergency they can go out. But once it becomes more than 50 people in one area, as required by OSHA, there is now need to have more than one exit, right? And this more than one exit could be, one of them could be the emergency exit. Any question? Clear?
Clear, sir, clear.
Okay, good. So what the requirement for exit access is to buildings maintained to provide free and unobstructed egress from all parts of the building at all the time when it is occupied. These kind of emergency exits or emergency access or emergency discharge, always remember they almost have the same requirements. One of the major requirement for all these 3, that these should not be blocked, these should not be locked, and these should not be unobstructed by any means. We have seen many times that in our stores, in our production areas, the forklift drivers, our people, they love this place to put the pallets in front of emergency exit, because they think that this emergency exit is not going to be used. So yalla, let's put all old garbage, the stock which is not in use, the stock which is just arrived. Sometimes during the audit we have noticed that there is some pallets there are some boxes which are blocking the emergency exit or emergency exit. And once we are going to ask them why these boxes or these pallets are available during this emergency exit access or exit door, they come up with this lame argument that, sir, this material has just arrived. Now we will do the inspection and then we will place them at their places. So this reason is unacceptable. Emergency exit, emergency access, emergency discharge. These all three parts of exit route cannot be blocked, cannot be unobstructed at all the time, right? It is not required that we can lock or fasten the emergency exit. Sometimes in companies we find that they are locking, but as required by OSHA, as required by the Difa al-Madni, our civil defense, it's a crime to lock your emergency exit, because in case of emergency it might be possible that that responsible person or that supervisor is not available, and then you will have trouble in this case. So you can lock the emergency exit only at the jails, right? Where if the emergency exit is not locked, then what will happen? All the prisons will go out. So you can lock the emergency exit in jails or in the recreational places where, for example, mentally retarded people or the people who are drug addict, their treatment is going on. On those places you can lock the emergency exit, but it is required by OSHA that the keys should be available all the time to the duty supervisor. So in case of emergency, they can use it. It is very necessary that emergency exit should not be locked other than these places. Each exit discharge must lead directly outside to a street or the walkway or refuge area. So when we discuss about exit discharge, it should be lead always outside. As I told you, it is a protected area. It is a safe area. We are coming from unsafe area, and when we cross the emergency exit, it should be a safe area. Sometimes we have seen in the companies, for example, they have one department like operations department or the forklift or the warehouse department. This department is like 3 feet, 4 feet above the ground. It's okay, no problem. We can go by stairs and when we enter in the operations area. And when we are going to see the emergency exit, there are no such stairs. So you have to go outside by means of jump, which is again a violation. It is, if it is a 3 feet or 4 feet in height and the company thinks that nobody will go in this emergency exit, so why we need to have the stairs available, 3 or 4 steps available in this area so the people can jump and they can go outside. So it is unacceptable. We need to see this kind of issues as well. And whenever there is a floor or there is a operations area or warehouse or any floor which is above the ground, in this case you must check the emergency exit and see if the emergency exit discharge is safe or no. Sometimes the emergency exit itself is open, the access is clear, but since this emergency exit is not being used very frequently, so there are lot of garbage, there are lot of bushes, there are people, they use this area as to for the smoking purpose, and so this kind of things are highly unacceptable. We have the same regulation for exit access, we have the same regulation for exit door, and we have the same regulations for exit discharge. So we as a safety professionals, we should not be satisfied when we see the exit access and exit door are clear. We need to check the door by opening it and see the requirements are going to be fulfilled or no. Every required exit, way to approach thereto, and way to travel from the exit into a street or open space shall be continuously maintained. Again, you will see the same requirement for the maintenance of exit door, that it should be continuously unobstructed. And if there is a need for to go to the space or to the open area, the exit access should be clear and free from any obstruction. It is another requirement that a side hinge door must be used to connect any room to an exit route. For example, if the exit is far away from you and there are multiple rooms or halls you have to cross to reach up to the final exit, then in this case these all doors should be, if these are closed, but these shall not be locked and they can open anytime, and they should not be a sliding door, they should be open in the direction of going out. So this is another requirement, that whenever we have 50 or more than 50 people available in an area, then in this case, our emergency exit should always be open outside. And again, it is also a requirement of our civil defense and Difal Madni that we need to install push bar door. This push bar door you will find everywhere now in the companies, that which can be open from inside, but it cannot be open from outside. So this push bar doors are a requirement nowadays. Exit route must support the maximum permitted occupants loads. You can see that in the hotels especially, what happened that there are a lot of occupants which are going to stay on the above floors. So in this case, if they are coming all together, or we can say many people are coming together, our exit stairs shall bear the weight of them. Our exit route must bear the weight of them. It should be strong enough, it should be spacious enough that it can bear the weight of the occupants which are coming from the above floors or from the other areas to go out. So the capacity of exit route may not be decreased in the direction of exit. Sometimes it happens that your stairs are very wide, but at the end of your emergency exit is not, meeting the requirements of stairs. So it becomes like bottleneck, that the people will come from the top and there will be too much gathering of the people and they want to go out, but the door is very small or the door is not the standard size as compared to the stairs. So in this case, what will happen? The people get stuck and then there is a chance of collision and there is a chance of injuries as well. So the ceiling of the ceiling at least 7 feet 6 inches high. You can see that the ceiling of, for example, when you are coming from first floor or second floor and you need to go to the emergency exit, so the area should be 7.5 feet all the time, should be open, so a person can go easily out of this emergency, can be reached easily to the emergency exit. And emergency exit itself should be, minimum height is 6 feet 8 inch, around 7 feet your emergency exit should be there, so a person can go easily. An exit access must be at least 28 inches wide. So the stairs of emergency exit or the walkway of emergency exit access must be minimum 28 inches, which is like more than 2 feet. So the people can go out easily. In hotels, now there is another concept of partition, right? Compartmentization. So whenever they have long halls, like you can see in this picture, whenever they have long halls available which are connected, many rooms are connected, for example 50 rooms are there on one floor, there is a concept of partition. They make the compartment in between these halls, they make for like every 50 feet they make the doors which remains open, but in case of fire these doors can be closed. These are fire resistant doors, so if the fire is in this portion, so the other portion is safe. This is also a technique to prevent from the fire, and we discuss this technique in detail in the Nibosh course. So we can just we need to know that if the area is a wide area, it's a long area, many of the rooms or many of the occupants are there, so to protect maximum people we can divide this area with 2 or 3 doors, and these doors are like open all the time, but in case of fire we can close these doors so the fire or the smoke cannot go towards the whole area. And this was also there was an emergency where we have the problem of HVAC system, that HVAC systems are interconnected with each of the rooms, and this is a common accident or a common accident in the hotels, that the people are sleeping and there is a fire in one room, and due to our HVAC system the smoke goes in other rooms, and the other people uh, they are also sleeping and they also get affected. So this is the same concept of compartmentalization. Nowadays, even in HVAC system, we are not connecting all the rooms with one pipe. We need to make compartment. We need to make the partition. So if one room is going to be affected, all of the other rooms shall not be affected. Okay, up to limited number of rooms can be affected. It's okay. You can see another common example, that the pallets are there in between the walkway or exit access. Sometimes even the fire extinguisher is there, sometimes mops are there, sometimes boxes are there. So these kind of practices are common. Another precaution what we need to carry out about emergency exit, that we should not keep any of the flammable material near to the emergency exit itself, because in case of fire, if that material is going to have flames or fire, then it will also get involve our emergency exit area. So the fire will also be near to the emergency exit, and how the people will go out in this situation. Lighting and marking must be adequate whenever we have sometimes, like we have the national day, we have Eid, we have Christmas, so where we are going to decorate our offices, where we are going to decorate our buildings. So sometimes we don't focus and we hide the signages, we hide the smoking what you call it, smoke detectors, we hide emergency break glass call points. So these kind of activities should not be performed. Whenever we have the emergency exit, the exit sign shall be clearly visible and free of any decoration pieces. So in case of emergency, the people can see it easily. Whenever we have we are working in an operation side, when we are working on a production area, it might be possible, due to the size of machines, due to the size of equipments installed in the production area, we will not be able to see the emergency exit directly. So in this case, we need to provide the clear signages, so the persons who are available at one place, they can see clearly where are the signages and in which path they have to go in order to go out of this area safely. Sometimes you can do this by means of walkway or signages on the floor directly. Nowadays there are very good quality paints are available, which you can use for the marking purpose, or self illuminating lights are available, which are required that you should install to see the direction of exit route. Always remember, when we talk about emergency exit or emergency access, so there is no concept of electricity, the first source of electricity, which means that in case of emergency, the maintenance people, what are they going to do? The first thing they are going to do, that they turn off the power of the company or power of the area, because if the power is energized, which means there are more chances of disasters are there. So all our emergency signs, all our emergency identifications, exits shall be self-illuminated. When we say self-illuminated, there are nowadays stickers are available, and similarly there are battery operated signs are available. Battery operated signages can be installed, and we need to check, we need to perform their inspection time to time in order to maintain the battery all the time. Another situation is possible that sometimes whenever your company was built, like 15 years ago, 25 years ago, at that time there was an emergency exit, and with the passage of time, the company employees were were increasing, and they have the need to have more offices available. So it might be possible that the one emergency exit which was available since long time, the company has closed this emergency exit and they have made an alternate emergency exit. So in this case, we need to inform the people who are working in this area, because those people who are working since long time in the same area, in their minds, the emergency exit is still there. So if we are going to lock emergency exit, or we are going to demolish, or we are going to not having this emergency exit anymore, we need to identify it clearly that this is not the emergency exit, so they can use the other area, right? You can see that each emergency exit signs should be at least 54 lux, right? 54 lux. So this is enough to go out. It is like a torch. So if our emergency exit sign, and if our emergency exit itself has this source of light available, then we can easily see the emergency exit in case of darkness, when our normal electricity source is not available, and we can go out. And the word should be very plain, with the letter height of 3 by 4 inch thickness. So it is quite clear, no designing, no like calligraphy, that we are very artistic people, so we will be making signs like that. Whenever there is a need for some maintenance activities, then in this case, ideally we are not required to block emergency exit. But if it is very necessary to block the emergency exit due to some maintenance activities, it is the responsibility of the people or the contractor or the maintenance department to inform the people of this area that our emergency exit is blocked for some time, for example for 4 hours, 2 hours, or 2 days. Because when we are sitting in our offices, when we are working in our companies, in our minds, back of our mind, we are confident, we are sure that our smoke detectors, our fire alarm, our emergency exits, they are working fine. So if any of emergency equipment or emergency gadget, it becomes out of order and we don't have any idea, and the emergency situation comes, then it will be very difficult for us. So that's why whenever it is a routine maintenance or a non-routine maintenance, where you are going to disconnect emergency equipment, where you are going to disconnect emergency, you are going to block the emergency exit or exit access, you need to inform the people who are working or who are occupied in this area. An exit must be separated by fire resistant material. Fire resistant material, even here in Kingdom now, it is a requirement from the Difal Madni that whenever you are going to install the doors, they must be fire resistant. So now when you are going to purchase the doors from any of the vendors who is providing the fire resistant doors, he will ask you the question that how much time fire resistant you need. You need half an hour, 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour, 5 hour, 10 hour. So on the basis of this, they are going to give you the quotation, because the more height or the more taller floors we are going to use, the more fire resistant capability of the emergency exit should be. For example, if our building is like ground floor, first floor, second floor, up to 3 or fewer stories, then 1 hour fire resistant is enough. But if we have more than 4 floors in our building, so our final exit must be minimum 2 hours of fire resistant, which means that even if it remains within fire for 2 hours, there should be no problem, right? So this is one of the requirements. Yes guys, any question from exit? Any question from exit? Are you there or sleeping?
No, sir.
Clear? Everything's clear?
Yes, it's quite
Yes,
clear.
clear, clear.
Now you can see this is
some
It was
helpful-
actually like a story, and I
Exactly.
felt like it just kept
Wonderful
on
story.
going and going and going, and it was so wonderful.
Smooth, yeah.
Go
Yeah,
with the
smooth.
flow. So when the trainer starts its flow, the participant should be go with the flow, and you are all involved. I thought you are sleeping and I'm talking with the walls and the doors.
We are
No,
with you,
no.
sir.
Good, good.
Mr. Anas,
Yes, guys.
please just the number. You told us that the exit should be fire resistant materials. And the last point you said that if you want to choose any exit, for example, for 1 hour resistant or 2 hour resistant on fire, it's related to the number of floor. For example,
Yeah,
if you have
exactly. From ground floor up to 3 floors, the fire resistant exit should be, the door of fire resistant should be
yes,
minimum 1 hour. And if you have more than 4 floors, 4 or 5 floor, 6 floor, 10 floor, then minimum should be 2 hours.
2 hours.
The
Okay,
resistant,
thanks.
fire resistant capability of your door,
Yes, yes. Thank you.
right? So these are now very common in the market.
When
Even
you
in,
started,
they are being manufactured in Saudi Arab. I know some companies, they are manufacturing these kind of the doors. Yes, guys.
Yeah, I was saying when you started, you said OSHA does not use emergency exit. This word, why? Like
Because
they
it
use
is,
exit.
it is their English. What we can say, if you are
Okay.
going to read the UK based regulation, they use emergency exit. If you see OSHA, they are most of the things they are with the red and white. If you see the UK base, most of the time they are using something which is like green and white. So
It's not a big deal, right?
it's not a big deal. I mean, the dynamics of safety, the dynamics of fire, it's same all over the world. We need to understand our local regulation. Our Difal Madni, they always promote to have red and white because they follow the American standard. So for us, we can be red and white, but even green and white, no harm in it. But as far as we need to see our, again, local regulation, right? At the end of the day, see, whenever we are going to adopt any of the standard, no problem. You can adopt any standard in the world. You can adopt the standard of Uganda, no problem. You can adopt the standard of Ethiopia. Nobody is going to stop you. So the thing is, this standard should meet the requirement of your local regulation, right? All the regulation says that first, the most important thing is to follow your local standard. So because you are legalized in this country, you have to operate in this country. For example, when I was in Unilever, so we had the corporate requirements from our corporate headquarters. But again, they say this is the requirement from our side, but you need to check with your local requirements. If your local requirements are a bit different from our requirements, then you need to focus on your local requirement and then follow our requirement, right? This is the same thing which ISO 45 standard says. ISO 45 standard says that, okay, health and safety is, this standard is from ISO, which is international, but again, there is a clause of legal and other requirement which says that you have to follow your legal requirements, right? Okay, guys. What is emergency action plan? EAP, emergency action plan. Emergency action plan is very necessary to develop in all the organizations, right? If you are following OSHA or if you are not following OSHA, nowadays, we are having COVID-19 is one of the emergency situation. We have fire in oil and gas. We have H2S emergency situations, gas leakage in some companies. For example, when I was working in the steel industry, we had ammonia gas where we are going to crack ammonia into nitrogen and hydrogen. So, for example, you are working in a steel industry, so you have the emergency situation, falling of load or falling of coil or falling of material from the crane. These are the common emergencies in many of the industrial areas. It is not necessary that all the companies will have the same emergency situation. So the standard says we need to have the emergency we need to have the emergency from according to our requirement, right? We need to have emergency according to our requirement. So it is very necessary, if you are in oil and gas, you should not follow the requirements of general industry, right? The manufacturing company. But since we need to follow our emergency, we need to follow our general industry rule. In the fire chapter, you have seen somewhere there will be written like NFPA, right? Follow NFPA, Life Safety Regulation Code.
Yes.
Let me give you a brief introduction about NFPA. NFPA is also an agency
National
of
Fire
USA, which stands for National Fire Protection Agency. It is the agency which is also working under the Department of Labor, and their focus is on fire and electrical safety. So fire and electrical safety, this is very good thing that OSHA, they are also health and safety, right? NFPA, they are focusing on fire and electrical safety. But the good thing about these both agencies that they don't what do you call it, intermingle the requirement of each other. Their requirements are not going to be overlap with each other. Whenever there will be a requirement of fire comes, your OSHA standard will say follow NFPA standard. In NFPA, whenever they are discussing the fire requirements and it comes the requirement of health and safety, they will say follow OSHA standard requirements, which is very good. In our case, we have seen sometimes in Kingdom, what happened, that defilement inspector comes, he make the findings according to his regulation. After 2 days, Mudun inspector comes, he says no, this is incorrect, do in my way. So there are some kind of overlapping in the regulations, so which creates a problem for the clients, which create the problem for the people who are working in the industry, and especially the safety department, that they are going to call us and they ask, okay, Anas, what should we follow? Should we follow him or should we follow him? So I used to suggest them, you need to follow both, try to have something more stronger than those both, so you can meet the requirement of both parties. So as required by OSHA standard, you need to have emergency action plan in written form, right? In documented form when you have 10 or more than 10 employees. Similarly, what are the constituents of emergency action plan? Emergency action plan is being divided into 4 parts. For example, plan, prepare, respond, and resume. The first thing, plan. We need to identify the all possible emergencies which are applicable to us. Then after what we have identified, that we have fire emergency, we have electrical emergency, we have falling of load emergency, we have H2S gas emergency. This is the first part, planning. Now after that, this identification, what we need to do in the planning phase, we need to document the plan. What will be our action? What will be our action in this case? So then we need to write who will be responsible for evacuation, who will be responsible for first aid, which team is going to be rescue, which team is going to be the firefighting team. Sometimes we have seen that companies, they make during the audit, before the audit, they make something fake, that these 5 people, for example, Mr. Rahbar, Mr. Adnan, and Mr. Melvin, they are the part of our first aid team, or they are the part of our rescue team. So when we ask this Mr. Rahbar or Mr. Adnan that, okay, what are your responsibilities in case of fire? So they say that we will evacuate whenever there is an emergency. So this is a very critical thing. We should not identify the people directly. We need to make sure that they should have the training available. They should know how to act and what are their responsibilities. It should be clearly communicated to them. So this is our part of planning. Then we need to prepare ourselves. Now we have sometimes you take the help of consultant, sometimes you take the emergency action plan like from your head office or from your corporate or from sister concern. Then after that, what we need to prepare ourselves. How to prepare ourselves? By performing the drills, right? By performing the drills as required by our civil defense. Mandatory requirement is at least one time full evacuation drill is needed for our as a part of our emergency action plan in Kingdom. So you can have more than one drill. You can, in oil and gas, they require on quarterly basis. On the drill sites, they require on quarterly basis. In manufacturing, in oil and gas refineries, they require sometimes 6 monthly, sometimes they require quarterly basis. In manufacturing companies where the Modan is operating, the Falbandi required to have minimum one time in a year. So this should be full evacuation. So we need to follow our local regulation. So how to respond? As I told you, sometimes we nowadays, mashallah, we are all reporter, right? We are all journalists. We do this service free of cost. If there is any fire, so you will get one message, and mashallah, you think that it's a sadqa jariya. So you will forward in next 5 groups or 10 groups where you have more than 250 members are available, and then so on. Like Corona is going to be spread, we are going to spread the news without any research if this news is true or fake. But we consider it's our moral responsibility, I think, that we need to pass all the messages which we are receiving. So sometimes I receive the same message from 5 different sources, and then I get exhausted what to do with this. I remember in last Ramadan, there was a fire incident in Yambo, right, in net pet company. So I called my friend who is living in Yambo. What happened in this company? Because I know personally that this company has very good safety system and they have very good fire system, but accidents are possible. If you want to have 0 accident, then close your company and have the lockdown. Nowadays, for example, many companies are closed, so there are no accident. So if you want to be 0 accident, so you have to close your company and no need to perform any activities. Whenever we have activities, there are always chances that accidents are possible. So when I call him, he told, no, I don't know. I'm living in Yambu, but I don't know. I told him that the people from India to Philippines, from Africa to Ethiopia, everyone knows that there is a fire in Netpet, and you are miskin guy living in Yambu and you don't know. So this is the level of our news spread, right? We should avoid such kind of news. Yesterday, there was a big fire in Dubai, in Sharjah, in fact, in a residential building, which is like 50 floors, more than 50 floors. And I have seen some videos, and it was very, heavy fire. May Allah protect all of us from these kind of accidents. In fire, most of the time, the accidents are not with the fire. Most of the casualties are with the smoke, because the smoke, it reduces the oxygen, and the evacuation of the people, it becomes very difficult for. So we need to respond. How we are going to respond? Who will be the incident commander? Who will be the in charge to deal with the media in case of emergency? Who will be the person who is going to call the Falbandi that we have the fire or we have the emergency? Please come with your fire trucks. Who is the person going to call hospital for the ambulance? We need to have this mechanism available, clear mechanism available, and everyone in the company who is coming in the company, who is joining the company, as a part of our induction, we need to give them a clear demonstration about these things. And then who is going to resume? Who is going to announce that, okay, now the operations are resumed, or maybe the emergency is going on a high level, so we need to evacuate from our main door. These kind of things, we need to be clarify that who is the person responsible for these activities. So this, all 4 sections, all 4 part of emergency action plan are very necessary, and we need to document and we need to make practice, right? Sometimes you are dealing with the chemical, so chemical spill is one of the emergency. Sometimes it is a safety related emergency. Sometimes it is also a environmental related emergency, because it is the chemical or the hazardous material, when it is going to be spilled on the ground, it also affect our environment. So similarly, gas leakage emergency could be our emergency related to the safety. This could be emergency related to the fire. Similarly, we have some other kind of emergencies. Fire, even fire is also, smoke is not good for environment. So when you are dealing with IMS in your company, integrated management system, so you need to identify, this is also a requirement in ISO 45000 and ISO 14000. that you need to identify the emergencies which are related to the environment and the emergencies which are related to the health and safety. And even in 22,000 food safety, this is a requirement that you need to define the emergency which are related to the food, which in under which conditions the food can be in trouble. So we need to protect our food with these requirements. So this is our emergency action plan. And now the requirement we have already discussed, these all requirement. Assembly point, I hope you know, I just added this slide last time. Sometimes the participant, they have the questions about assembly point or muster point. If any of you are not clear about assembly point, I will just going to brief you very fast. Assembly area is basically that area, or assembly point is the point which is away from our emergency discharge. This is the point where you feel that you are safe. When you are going to design this emergency assembly area, always remember there could be one assembly area or there could be more than one assembly area are possible at one location, no problem. But in case when you have more than one assembly area, the people should be clearly know that which of the assembly area they have to go. Assembly area A or assembly area B, you can divide by means of department, and you can divide by means of according to the convenient whatever you have. Whenever we are going to design emergency assembly area, one of the very critical thing which we need to focus is the location of assembly point. Most of the time we identify assembly point as near to the gate. This is okay, 90%, this is okay, but we need to see also the direction of wind. So it might be possible that where you have the direction of wind, in the same area you have the assembly area. So in case of gas leakage, in case of fire, all the smoke, all the gas will come to the assembly area. So the people who are standing in the assembly area, they will not be safe. So we need to see this factor, and that's why, have you seen in companies they use wind socks? This wind socks is especially on oil and gas side where they have the possibility of gas leakages. They use this orange color wind socks, right? So this wind socks is basically going to give us the direction of wind. So if we have more than one assembly area, so we need to see the wind socks, and then we need to decide that on which assembly area we have to go. So that's why we need to have, as a part of our emergency preparedness, we need to have centralized announcement system, or centralized alarms, not alarm system, announcement system should also be there, that where we need to go, where we need to evacuate, which of the departments are required to evacuate. It might be possible that the emergency is only in one or two department and not in the whole company. So if you have addressing system, if you have centralized addressing system, so you can use this addressing system to give the directions, instructions, that how we are going to react in this situation. So guys, we will take again 5 minutes break if you allow, and then we will continue with fire.
Okay.
Okay. Let's have 5 minutes break and then we will continue. Which can be combined together. We can cause the fire. These three components are oxygen, or the source of ignition or heat, and the fuel. The most important thing in these three components are the properties of fuel. It is not necessary whenever these three are going to combine together, we will have the fire. But it is necessary that it depends on the situation of fuel. Because if the fuel has high combustion point, then it's not possible to have fire. And if the fuel has less ignition point or less combustion point, we can have fire. For example, you will see now we are approaching to May, and then we will have June and July, where we have very hot season. So when we are working on construction sites or on the field, we can see that the sun is like 48, 49 degrees centigrade. And we have air is available, oxygen is available. But we are not getting burned. We are not getting fire. Why? Because the fuel, for example, us, our body, or the fuel in our surrounding, for example, paper, wood, clothes, any other kind of fuel. So the property of fuel, that the ignition point for this fuel is still not arrived. But once the ignition point of this fuel is going to be arrive, and we have even normal oxygen and normal source of ignition, we will have the fire. So fire is mainly depending on the properties of fuel, but all these three components are necessary to have the fire. Fire is a tetrahedron. The tetrahedron is a chain reaction. Once it is going to be start, it is very difficult to stop. Fire multiply itself in 300 times within a minute, right? When the fire is going to be started, it is very difficult to control. The science of the fire we need to understand when we say that these three components are fire. So when we are going to extinguish the fire, we need to take out one of the components. So then there will be no such fire. So if there is no fire, if we are going to take out one of the component, then we can say that we can have the extinguishing of fire. And this is the time which is where we are going to decide. And this time is very less time. You need to decide in seconds, right? You need to decide in seconds that which of the fire component we can remove easily, right? So sometimes you can remove the fuel, sometimes you can remove the heat, sometimes you can remove the oxygen. For example, when you are using water for the fire extinguishing purpose, so you are going to reduce the component heat. The fuel is still there, the oxygen is still there, but we are going to reduce the heat. When we are using the CO2 fire extinguisher, it is going to have two actions together. It is going to reduce the heat because CO2 is a very cold gas, and at the same time it is also going to reduce the oxygen. And similarly, when we are going to use the powder, it is also going to reduce the because powder make the layer on the surface, and once we have this layer available, so oxygen is going to be disconnected with the surface. And similarly, it is also going to affect by means of affecting on the heat. So whenever we are having the fire in front of us, we need to take this decision very fast that which of the component we can remove easily. For example, there is a fire in a gas pipeline, and this gas pipeline is connected to a tank which has a lot of gas. So in this case, what are you going to do? For example, if there is a fire in this gas pipeline, what are you going to do to extinguish this fire? Are you going to use the water? Are you going to use powder, or what? Yes, guys.
Powder.
Best is to reduce the supply of oxygen to the fire so that does not extend. So we can use powder, or we can use good pressure water.
Okay.
If it's a small fire, you can use a big blanket or something to cover it so that the oxygen supply is totally off and the fire will go off.
See, whenever we have continuous supply of fuel or continuous supply of gas or the petrol, something like that, the best possible solution is to cut off the line. Khalas. So whatever the gas which is inside the pipe, it will only be burned, but the continuous supply is going to be disconnected. What does it mean? We have disconnected the fuel. But if you are going to use water, so you will find that until unless this fuel is not going to be finished, your water is not going to have any impact on this fire, right?
Okay, the source.
Yes. So sometimes we need to remove the water. Sometimes we need to remove the oxygen. Sometimes we need to remove the fuel, and sometimes we need to remove the heat. So we need to work on any of the component, but this action is very fast. We need to take this action very fast. Otherwise, there will be a lot of fire. So what I need to do now, that I'm assigning you in the groups, that one of the group will be discussing about the classification of fire very quickly. It will be only 5 to 6 minutes. And the other group is going to discuss about the types of fire extinguisher. Like we have a dry chemical, water, carbon dioxide. These are the three main fire extinguishers type. and which type of fire extinguisher is suitable for which class of fire. Okay, this is one exercise, and the other exercise is that what is class A fire, class B fire, C and D, K, what are these fires. So you will be divided into group, and you can see now again this fire is, we are using not the OSHA classification, we are using NFPA 10. So remember I told you that fire and electrical, it goes with NFPA rather than OSHA directly. So you will be dividing into two groups, and very fast you need to discuss, and then we will proceed further. Now today, remember we have the time up to 12:30. Okay. Your assignment is to types of fire extinguishers. Okay, types of fire extinguishers. Just focus on three types: powder, CO2, and water. Right? Quick.
So who else are there? There is Melvin, Rahbar, there
Yes,
is...
guys, you will be discussing
Yes,
about the
yes, sir.
classification. Okay, classification.
We types
classification
of
of...
fire extinguisher.
Yes, this one. Not this one. Yes, this one.
Classification.
Yeah, Melvin, you can start. Yes, so class A chemicals, class A kind of fire extinguishers are for, some rule is remembering anything which becomes once you get rid of it. So it's what becomes ash after the fire is controlled. So we can have examples like paper, trash, plastics. So all kind of these things become trash. Wood and cloth. So who is writing? Melvin, will you be the one to speak today? Class B will be anything which involves like the flammable liquids and it catches fire. Okay. It can be benzene, what we say in Saudi Arabia, any kind of gasoline. It has anything which has a liquid form, and
Yes,
it can be
flammable liquid.
to use class B. So Rahbar and I will start.
Yes, please.
Rahbar, can you start with classification of fire? Hello.
You can start, Babar. Don't.
I think he's... So there are basically five major kind of classification of fire extinguishers, which is your and according to safety. Class A being on the ordinary combustible things, like which the thumb rule is whatever transforms to ash after the fire is controlled. Example, if a paper catches fire or plastic catches fire, it keeps a very bad kind of ash, but yeah, still ash. Then you have the garbage or the trash, etc. Whatever forms this, how to contain this kind of fire, kind of object if they catch fire. It's class A. It's an ordinary fire extinguisher, you can say. Then the class B is the flammable liquids, any kind of liquid which can catch fire, like grease, benzene, we say in Saudi Arabia, petrol in India, Pakistan. So if that kind of liquid catches fire, then to control it quite well, we use class B kind of fire extinguishers. Class C is for electrical equipments, non-conductive. So some rule in that. And any kind of electrical, to save any kind of further electrical hazard or further electrical fire, to be precise, you use class C kind of fire extinguisher. Then to quickly move on to the combustible metals, class D kind of fire extinguishers to contain it. So if we use class C, it doesn't mean it will not contain it, but to better, or maybe it can boost it up more. So it's important we know the classification and the right fire extinguisher to use. Then we have the class K ones, quite common in home also, I think, in cooking appliances, cooking stuff, plus wet chemical, like in pharmaceutical factories, or we are in a chemical or biochemical laboratories. If you're using wet chemical, you're doing research with it. If you spill the chemical, then you have the class K fire extinguishers. Here in my university, we have all these kinds of fire extinguishers at every fire exit points. So I can relate to this.
Okay,
Thank
very
you.
good, very good, very good. Yes, next group.
Yeah. Hello. So now we're going to discuss about fire extinguishers. We're going to discuss about 3 fire extinguishers. One is dry chemical, and then water. Okay, starting with water. Okay, so water, these kind of extinguishers contain water and compressed gas and should only be used as class A. And now what is class A? We have known that class A is a very ordinary kind of combustibles. Okay, so when we are talking about water, we're gonna deal with papers, trash, and all those stuff. Okay, it's not gonna be a very severe fire. It's gonna be by putting water into it. Now comes CO2. CO2 is most effective on class B and C. And as Mr. Baba said, this class B and C are something which could turn into a catastrophic situation. So now carbon dioxide extinguishers are most effective on class B and C, like liquids and electrical fires. Since the gas disperses quickly, we need to keep in mind that in order to be effective, it should maintain the distance between 3 to 8 meters. Okay, and then comes
Feet. Yeah.
hello.
Correct. Good. Yes.
Dry chemical, we can use it for multi-purpose.
Good. And for just for carbon CO2, we cannot use this in confined spaces because it can cause asphyxiation.
Yes.
Of the user.
Exactly. At confined spaces, we need more amount of oxygen. Right.
Yeah.
Nice.
Very good. Okay. Now my one question I have. If you guys have seen that most of the time we have a gauge available on fire extinguishers, but on CO2 we don't have the gauge available. Why?
Because the gas pressure release from the extinguisher could be done in one go. There is no, I think there is no, quantity setup, or the flow setup is not required.
The thing is that whenever we have the gas,
Okay.
the gas is occupying all the area, whatever is available.
Exactly.
If you have small area or if you have large area, so the gas is going to be occupy all the area. So in this regard, if we have even a small quantity of the gas in our fire extinguisher, still this gauge will be keeping it full, right? It will show that the gas is full.
Exactly.
If we have the gas which is full, can you see the screen now?
Yes.
If we have the gas full, it will still be showing the full. So it will become useless. That's why CO2 or gas related extinguishers, we are always using checking by weight, right? The weight is mentioned on the cylinder itself, and we are
We
going to
weigh
use.
by bars or
Sorry?
PSI.
No, by weight. It is not the
Yes.
pressure. I'm asking. You need to check by weight. 5 pound, 10 pounds. Okay, 5 kilo,
In
6
liters
kilo.
also we can measure, right?
Yes, exactly.
50 liters, 100 LT, like this.
Also, yes. Also, one of the thing that why we have the gauge on CO in our DCP or water, because DCP or water, the gauge is with the medium itself. There are two medium in the DCP. One is the nitrogen gas, pressurized nitrogen gas, and another is the our powder, right? So with the passage of time, if we are not going to shake this fire extinguisher minimum on monthly basis, then it will happen that the powder which is heavy, it will go down and sit and it will sleep, and all the gas which is a lighter medium, it will go up. So that's why whenever we are going to use the fire extinguisher for TCP, it is highly recommended to shake, or especially to be available or to be ready all the time, we need to shake it when we are going to perform the inspections, right? There is one thing which is very important. I always say this thing in my sessions, that as required by Difal Madni, there are certain conditions which are required on the fire extinguisher. One of the requirement is to mention that what kind of fire extinguisher is, okay, like CO2, like water. Second requirement from Difal Madni is to mention that what kind of fire it is for, right? For example, it is for A class fire, B class fire, C class fire, with the picture. The third requirement from Difal Madni is to mention that how to use the fire extinguisher, like pass, right? So this is one of the requirement from Difal Madni. Another thing which is required by, why my voice is not clear?
Sorry, your voice is
Why it's not clear, sir?
Sure. What about others?
Yeah, we can listen.
You can listen.
Okay.
We are all facing lagging problems here.
Do you know,
But it's
because
okay right now.
nowadays too much load on the all internet. I'm using fiber, but still sometimes it get problem. Similarly, it is also a requirement of Difal Madni that you need to have a contract available with the third party for the inspection of fire extinguishers. This third party will come to your facility on monthly basis, and they will inspect, and whatever, if there is a problem in extinguisher like low pressure or leakage or any other kind of damage, they are going to take out. It is you have this practice in your facilities. Is there any third party responsible who used to come on monthly basis in your facility? Yes, guys. Or no?
Sorry, can you repeat the question again?
There is a requirement from Difal Madni Civil Defense that you should have a contract with third party who will come to your facility to make the inspection of your fire extinguishers, and whenever needed, they will take out your fire extinguishers and they will fill it, and then they will give it back, and you are going to pay them. It is a mandatory
No,
requirement
not
for
here.
the it is mandatory requirement for the buildings and for the industries. I'm not sure if you have the
It's
same.
not exactly because it's a government sector. I don't
Hmm.
think it's the case.
Maybe.
They have their own HSC department.
Yeah. So in this condition, whenever they are going to come, I suggest my students that you should make sure that whatever fire extinguisher you are going to give them for the refilling, it must be empty. You can make a small drill with certain number of people to make them practice, but because most of the time when the pressure is going to be dropped or it is going to be 1 year, they take it, they clean it, and they change the sticker, and then they again keep it and they charge you the full amount. So it is highly recommended that whenever you are going to give any third party for the refilling of fire extinguisher, you must make it empty.
So it will be make sure that they are going to fill something, right? Okay, now we have how to use a fire extinguisher. Everyone, I think, hope you are all know about it, that we need to use the word pass: pull, aim, squeeze, and sweep. Pull the pin out and then aim on the bottom of the fire, on the root of the fire from where it is going to be ignite, and then squeeze. We need to squeeze with the handle. So the press the handle, so it will be coming out. All the medium which is inside, it will be coming out, and the direction of the nozzle should be on the fire. And then we need to make sweep, right? We need to make sweep. Don't use all fire extinguisher at one place, because fire is spreading. So you should also be using the fire extinguisher medium on the nearby area, so there will be no chance of fire. And it is recommended that whenever you are going to use fire extinguisher in any of the area, you should be vigilant for minimum 15 to 20 minutes, because it might be possible that the fire which is inside or which is under the surfaces, still there is some source of energy is remaining. And when you are going to leave this area, with the passage of time, it gets more oxygen, and heat is already there and fuel is already there. So there is a chance that it will be reignite. So in the companies, whenever you are doing this activity, it is a responsibility of fire watch. This guy, he remains there even after the when you are going to fight with the fire, or whenever you are going to use any of the ignition source, he makes sure that there is no such fire situation is available, so it can reignite, right? Inspection of fire extinguisher as required by OSHA. We need to do monthly inspection, but we need to do monthly inspection by ourselves. Our Defalbandi required that we need to do the monthly inspection by the third party. So this monthly inspection will include the inspection of the nozzle, the inspection of the cylinder itself, and to check if the seal is okay, to check if there is any no such corrosion is available, and the gauge is working properly. Because whenever these fire extinguishers are installed, especially on outside the areas in our kingdom or in Arab countries, when we have a lot of heat during the sun, when the sun is at peak, so these are going to be deteriorate. So it is recommended that we need to have the covers on these fire extinguisher to avoid any temperature issues or issues related to the rain. So these are some of the requirement for the fire extinguisher. Then we have FPP, fire prevention plan. Fire prevention plan, remember before we discuss emergency action plan. So now the emergency will come later on. The first thing we need to cover that prevent from the fire. It's very simple fire prevention plan, that it says that we need to identify sorry, we need to identify all possible areas where the chance of fire is available. And for example, we need to identify chemical area, we need to identify server area, we need to identify control panel area. In our company drawing, in our workplace drawing, we need to identify that these are our critical areas. And when we are going to identify these critical areas, we need to take action on it. For example, the segregation of material, flammable and non-flammable material, segregation of chemicals, where possible, we need to make nowadays the fire resistant paints are coming, fire resistant doors are coming. We need to have the firefighting system available. For example, in server areas before, we have CO2 system, but as I told you, CO2 is not a human friendly gas. So now the companies are using, instead of CO2, they are using FM200 system, which is more advanced and which is more human friendly as compared to CO2 system. So after identification, we need to segregate this area by means of compartmentalization, by means of fire resistant paint, by means of detectors which are going to install, and segregation of material itself. So in this way we can prevent the fire, because once the fire is going to be ignited, it will be our emergency action plan will be started. But to avoid this emergency situation, especially for fire, we need to develop fire protection plan. So this fire prevention plan is not a mandatory requirement in kingdom, right? But Difal Madni, they ask you, okay, what is your emergency evacuation plan for fire? So emergency evacuation plan for fire is a mandatory requirement, but fire prevention plan, it is a mandatory requirement in OSHA in US, not in the kingdom, right? So now questions. In construction of exit route, a 5-story building must have exit route fire resistant for how many hours? Number A, at least 2 hours. 3, B for 3 hours. C for 6 hours. D, none of above.
2 hours.
2 hours.
2 hours.
More than 3,
2
2
hours.
hours.
Very good. More
2
than
hours.
3, 2 hours.
Less
Which of
than
the
3, 1 hour.
Very good. Which of the following is the best combination of fire triangle?
Fuel, oxygen, heat.
Fuel,
C. C. Yeah. Fuel, oxygen, heat.
Will be C, yes.
Okay, very good. Steps involved in the fire extinguisher operation. Pass.
Pull, aim,
Aim, squeeze, sweep.
P. What is P first? Pull. Pull the pin.
Pull. Okay.
Aim.
Pull,
Squeeze.
aim the target.
And sweep.
Very good. Very good.
Pull, aim, sweep. Squeeze.
Pull, aim, sweep,
Sweep.
squeeze. Okay. Class D fire involves in flammable and liquid combustible gases. For example, gasoline, solvent, alcohol. True or false?
False.
This
False.
is B.
Which class
Combustible.
is this? Very good. This is
B.
class B.
Liquid, it's C. It's C. It's B class, sorry.
B class. B class.
Yeah, it's false.
The best fire extinguisher to be used on for electrical fire is CO2.
B.
False.
False or true?
Yeah, why not true?
True.
True.
Electrical fire CO2 is best. Why? Because we can use a DCP, no problem. But the problem which is going to happen when we are going to use the DCP, that the layer of DCP is very strong. When it is going to stick on any of the material, it is very difficult to remove. So it might be possible that the powder will also go inside the equipment and it will damage the ports. It can damage the capacitor, something like those critical things. So that's why we avoid DCP. CO2 is a gas. It will make effect on cooling and then it will disappear. Khalas. But in case if CO2 is not available and you don't have any other option, so instead of water, you should use DCP, right? So what are the steps involved in the inspection of fire extinguisher? Steps. Yes, guys, fast.
Check the gauge.
Check the color
Yes,
coding,
check the gauge and
pressure gauge,
Check the weight.
very good and
color coding,
Check its corrosion.
and
Monthly inspection.
monthly inspection. What are you going to check in the monthly inspection?
Visual monthly inspection.
same.
The seals, the pins, the position, the places.
Very
of,
good, very good.
extinguisher.
The instructions, the instructions how to use is
The
clear or
leveling.
no? Any obstruction should be removed, right?
Yeah.
Very good. Okay. Alhamdulillah, we finished this. Now our next topic, without wasting, we have a small topic of PPE. Your favorite thing, PPE, which I don't like PPE, but all of my participants, they always love PPE because this is the best thing for the safety department. We can start this so we can finish on time, inshallah. Electrical safety is topic number 5, but I'm skipping this because it will need more than 15 minutes and we have 15 minutes. So that's why we are starting with the, at the moment we are starting the PPE, right? Because it will not take much time. You are well aware of PPEs. Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Good. PPE stand for? PPE stands for what?
Personal protective equipment.
Personal protective equipment.
Personal protective equipment, which means personal, which means single person, not for everyone. And in our companies, we use helmets for each other. We use air plug for each other. We use, sometimes we also use shoes for each other. So when we have PPE, which means it's for personal use. It is a very personal thing. You are not going to share with anyone, and especially in the days of Corona, when we are not sharing anything with each other. So this will become our practice after Corona itself, that we are not going to share with each other, which is not a good thing, to not share your things with each other. Okay, so
section 132 discuss about the PPEs, but this section starts with the clear instructions that before using the PPE, you need to make sure that you have applied all the possible, remember, hierarchy of controls: elimination,
Yes.
substitution, engineering control, administrative control, and then you are going for the PPE.
PPE.
PPE is
Least
the
effective.
last line. Exactly. Last level of control. PPE is our last line of action. After PPE, there is no such control and there is a possibility of accident. So who is going to tell us that when we are going to use the PPE? Which study is going to tell us? From where the requirement of PPE comes?
The hazard of the workplace.
Very good. Very good. Our
Should be
risk
appropriate.
assessment is the guiding document. Sometimes I ask this question with participants and they don't know. I ask them when I'm taking their interviews during the audit, who told you to use this PPE? They say our safety officer. When I ask this safety officer, why you ask him to use a PPE, to use this PPE, he says because of they are working in sunlight and blah, 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 blah. I ask them, give me the good technical answer as a safety professional. You are not the one who is going to suggest the PPE. Your risk assessment is going to suggest the PPE, right? So next time, whenever you are going to use PPE, don't use it from your own mind. First do the risk assessment, and in your risk assessment, when you will be applying the controls, then you will mention PPE as one of the control. And for risk assessment, it will always be with the group, not as individual. Keep my words always in your mind that the risk assessment is not an individual task. Risk assessment will always be performed in a group. The group which contains the safety department personnel, the operations department personnel, maintenance department personnel, and someone who is non-technical. So you can cover all possible hazards. You are very experienced. You have very good idea about the workplace, but you have limited mind. You can think limited. When you have more than one people, so you can have many hazards which can be identified. So that's why the risk assessment is always recommended as to do in the groups. Example of PPE is we all know face, for the face, for the eye, for the head, for the feet, for the hands and arms, for the body's vest, and earplugs. Before using PPE, we need to establish the PPE program. This PPE program is required by the OSHA. What are the requirements in this PPE program? It is not something like you need to establish the emergency action plan. This PPE program is a very simple program where you are going to identify the area, then the relevant PPE, then how many people are working in this area who are using this PPE, and how much is the minimum quantity should be available for this PPE. So it is a very simple thing. Why we need to have this PPE program available? So to make sure that there should be no lack of PPE by any time. And the people, for example, those who are coming new in the company, when they are going to see that in my department, what is the PPE program for my department, they will clearly know that which of the PPE we are going to use while we are performing the task. And the same thing they can also be used by using the risk assessment. But it might be possible that the people, all of the people, they are not aware of risk assessment. They don't know how to read the risk assessment. So that's why a simple PPE program, this could be mentioned on the chart, this could be mentioned on the document, this could be mentioned on the notice board. You can mention that which of the activities they require PPE, what kind of PPE, how many persons are going to use, and what is the minimum stock available for this PPE, right? It is very necessary that when we are using the PPE, we need to provide the training to our staff how to use the PPE. We have seen many times that people, they are using the PPE, but they don't use in a correct manner, especially when it comes to full body harness, when it comes to safety belt. Sometimes the people, they are using the shoes in an appropriate manner. Half of the foot is out of the shoes. They are using the gloves not in a correct way. Similarly, there are many practices which are being not followed for using the PPE. So as a safety department, when you are identifying the PPEs, it is your responsibility to provide the training on how to use the PPE, how to discard the PPE, how to maintain the PPE. So it is our responsibility. Safety spectacles, whenever we have the metal or plastic chips available, we need to use the safety spectacles. But if we have the fumes available, so in this case, we need to use the goggles, which are also covered from the side to avoid any kind of splashes. If we are involved in the welding, we need to use the welding shield, which can protect our whole face and our eyes as well. Head protection is very necessary. Head in the body, it is one of the most strongest part in our body, but at the same time, it is also very critical part. So any of the injury which is going to be hit your head, it is very difficult for the survival of human when your head is going to be injured. So there are three kind of heads. You can take the screenshot if you want, because this is not in the book. I just added for the information, because in companies we are using different types of hard heads. So class G is basically our gold class, or you can say class G is for the general purpose. Before it was class A, right? Before it was divided into class A, B, C. Now it is class G. G for general. So for general services, for example, mining, building, construction, shipbuilding, lumbering, or manufacturing activities, where the activities on your, on the top of you are also being carried out, there is a chance that something can fall on you. In this case, you are using the G class helmet. Then if you are involved in the electrical work, for example, Melvin job, so those people who are in electrical maintenance department, they are dealing with the electricity, they can use the class E. So this class E is going to save you up to 20,000 volt. So for the general purpose, if you are not involved in the above activities, but you are a maintenance department staff, you are an operator of a department where you have to go inside the machine, you have to go under the tables or conveyors or inside the machines, where there is a chance that if you will, when you are going to stand up, your head can hit the roof or the surface, or from the side there are sharp edges which can cause your head injury. So in this case, we are using bump cap, or we can say the class C type of the helmets. Air protectors can reduce up to, air muff are good support. They can reduce up to 30 decibel, while air plug can reduce up to 18 decibel maximum. So according to the noise requirement, we need to use the air protection. So many kind of injuries are possible with foot, especially when we are going to hit. We are going to have infection in our toes whenever we have the hard shoes, the steel toe. If we are going to hit the steel toe from our toe every time, and especially when it is wet, so with the passage of time, the leather from the steel toe is going to be removed, and if and your toe is directly hitting the steel toe. So in this case, if you have the moisture socks, or if you are not wearing the socks and you have sweating all the time, so you can have the infection on your toe. So this is very necessary that we need to clean the shoes as much as possible. So what is the most easiest way to clean your safety shoes or to sanitize your safety shoes? Yes, guys. Because safety shoes, if these are made of leather, you cannot wash them, right? So what?
Put on shine and.
Very good. Put under the sun. Whenever
Yes.
you are having break, whenever you are going for prayer, whenever you are going to remove, because, and especially in our homes who are living in the apartments, the sun is not easily available. So whenever in the company you will get the space available under the direct sunlight and you are having safety shoes, try to remove the safety shoes for some time. So this will give you a very good natural sanitizer. Right? Hand protection, we are using the gloves to protect many kind of injuries itself. Then we have safety harness. The safety harness is very important. Sometimes we use, if we are working at 6 feet of height, we are using the safety belt. But if we are working at more than 10 feet of height as required by OSHA, then we need to wear the full body harness. In full body harness, it must be protected with a proper safeguarding. For example, the lifeline must support 5,400 pounds of dead weight. Your lifeline must be 3x4 inch of operations thickness. Lanyard must be 1/2 inch in, or it is made up of nylon or equivalent lanyard must not allow over 6 feet. Lanyard is something which is you are going to fix, right? In this safety harness, you cannot see the lanyard, right? So lanyard is basically the nylon, you can say, type of rope which you are going to fix above above your body height, and in case if you are going to fall, this lanyard is going to protect you. So this lanyard must not be more than 6 feet, because it might be possible then you can hit the ground or you can hit any other part. So it should be less than 6 feet. Lanyard breaking strength is 5,400. You can see that even for a single person it is being used, but the breaking strength is too much, 5,400, because it might be possible that you are going to fall from too much height where your weight is going to be increased too much due to the gravity. Hardware must be dropped or forged or pressed steel or cadmium. This hardware, for example, this belt, this all the parts, metallic parts, it should be made up of steel or cadmium plated to be the strongest strength. As required by Kingdom, your all lifting equipment shall be inspected on annual basis by a third party. So but for these kind of PPEs which are used for personal purpose, these are also required to be inspected, and as required by Aramco, must be on a 6 monthly basis. So we need to consider these requirements. As required by OSHA, it is an annual requirement, but I'm talking about Aramco, it's a 6 monthly requirement, or they say whenever you are going to start the project, you must submit the certificate for all the body harness and other PPEs which are required to have a standard, right? Hardware must be smooth and free from sharp edges, and there must be withstand tensile loading of 4,000 pounds without cracking, breaking, or deforming. So these are some of the requirements which we need to focus while we are going to use the PPE. Any question? Yes, guys, any question?
Yeah, it's okay. Thanks.
Okay, I will share one of the video, small video for 3 minutes about PPE, and then we will finish. Can you see the screen?
Yes, sir.
And sound?
No sound.
No sound? No problem. There is no such communication.
Yes.